The plane took a short bump and traveled back 10,000 years to prehistory. This amazing flight began in London. The destination was New York's Edwards Airport. At first, the plane ran smoothly. The weather was perfect. The captain proudly boasted that with his experience, he could have arrived on time with his eyes closed. But then he sensed something strange about the plane. It seemed to be accelerating. The co-pilot guessed that there was a tailwind, but strangely, there was no vibration in the fuselage. Everything looked normal. It doesn't look like the force of the turbulence. However, at that moment, the ground speed was already 900 kilometers. Just when the technician thought it was a test error, the ground speed went back up to 980. And what's worse, when they tried to contact the ground, they found no response from any of the airports, and that's when the plane's ground speed climbed to an astonishing 5,000 kilometers per hour. If this continues, the wing could come apart at any moment. Suddenly, the plane shook violently, as if it had hit something, and there was a flash of white light in the sky. But soon the plane was back on its feet, and then, they checked the wings and the fuel tanks. There was no sign of impact. The captain sent a crew to check the cabin. Then he realized that the instruments had failed. At this point, the plane is a fly on the wall. He decided to descend below the clouds and fly visually.
Skipper, you can't do that. We leave this altitude, we'll run smack dab in the middle of 20 other flights.
You got any other alternative, Craig?
At that moment, the cabin crew reported no damage, and so, after reassuring the passengers and crew, the captain flew the plane down through the clouds. Luckily, they didn't collide with any other planes. But strangely, even though the terrain looked like New York City, but all the buildings and people just disappeared. While they were puzzled, the co-pilot made a startling discovery.
Skipper, verify something for me, would you? And in a hurry? Look!
They're actually seeing extinct dinosaurs. Apparently, they've traveled back in time. The calm captain made a bold guess. Let the plane accelerate to climb. To return to the point where they just traveled, maybe they could go back to the original time and space. This time, no one objected. After all, no one wants to be food for dinosaurs. Then it's deja vu all over again.
700 knots. 800. 900 knots.
The plane is moving up through the clouds, and then there was another powerful jolt with a white light, and the plane quickly resumed its smooth operation. Back under the clouds, they saw the crowded, bustling city of New York. They immediately told the cabin the good news. However, they were still unable to contact Edwards Airport, but fortunately, they managed to contact another small airport. But they had never heard of their flight, and didn't know what radar and jets were. But after learning they were low on fuel, they agreed to their landing request, but they had to report it to the Civil Aviation Authority. People were puzzled by the name, because the name of the department has long been changed, but then they soon realized why. Because they saw a scene that should have appeared in 1939, the New York World's Fair. That means they didn't travel back to 1960. Instead, they traveled to 1939. So the captain decided to try again. And eventually, one day in 1960, an airliner from London to New York lost contact with the ground, and so the lost airliner kept appearing in different time zones, and never landed.